The 19-year-old stranger-princese disrespected the man, so he turned and walked away without a word. Transport ship landed with a soft hum on the crystal platform of Zephyria Prime. Commander Marcus Chen stepped out, adjusting his simple blue diplomatic uniform. The alien world stretched before him like a dream made of glass and light. Tall spires twisted into the purple sky, and floating gardens drifted between the buildings like colorful clouds. Marcus had seen many strange worlds in his 20 years of service, but this one was special. Today, he would try to bring peace between two alien races that had been fighting for over a century. The Ethereal Dominion and the Void Collective had been at war so long that nobody remembered how it started. The Galactic Council had chosen Earth to help solve this problem. "Welcome to Zephyria Prime, Commander Chen," said Ambassador Kellax, a tall alien with silver skin and 3 eyes. "We are honored that humans have come to help us." Marcus nodded politely. "Thank you, Ambassador. I hope we can find a solution that works for everyone." The Crystal Palace rose before them like a mountain of pure light. As they walked through the entrance, Marcus noticed how everything seemed to glow with inner fire. The walls showed moving pictures of great battles and beautiful landscapes. Alien beings from dozens of different worlds filled the corridors, all here for the peace talks. "The opening ceremony will begin soon," Kellax explained. "Princess Lyrale of the Ethereal Dominion will speak first. She is young, but very important to her people." Marcus had read about the princess in his briefing files. She was 19 years old and had never left her home world before. Her people believed their royal family was blessed by the gods. This was her first time dealing with other species. The Great Hall was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. Thousands of aliens sat in floating seats arranged in perfect circles. At the center stood a platform made of pure crystal. Light danced across its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Marcus took his place in the human section. His small team of diplomats and engineers sat behind him. They looked tiny compared to some of the other delegates. The Void Collective sent warriors who stood 9 feet tall. The Ethereal Dominion brought nobles who glowed with inner light. A bell rang, and the ceremony began. Princess Lyrale appeared on the platform in a flash of golden light. She was beautiful in the way that only the ethereal could be. Her skin seemed to be made of starlight, and her hair moved like liquid silver. She wore robes that changed color with each breath she took. "Greetings, beings of the galaxy," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall without need for speakers. "I am Princess Lyrale, daughter of the eternal throne, blessed by the 7 suns, keeper of the sacred flame." The audience listened in respectful silence. Marcus noticed how the other aliens bowed their heads slightly when she spoke. Even the proud Void Collective warriors showed respect. "We have come here today to discuss peace," the princess continued. "But know that the Ethereal Dominion does not beg for anything. We are the children of light itself. We have ruled the stars since before your races learned to make fire." Her eyes scanned the crowd and stopped when she saw Marcus. For a moment, she seemed confused. Then her expression changed to something like disgust. "What is this?" she asked, pointing directly at Marcus. "Why is there a primitive creature in our sacred gathering?" The hall fell silent. Marcus felt thousands of eyes turned toward him. He kept his face calm and relaxed. Ambassador Kellax made a small worried sound beside him. "That is Commander Marcus Chen," Kellax said quickly. "He represents the human race. The Galactic Council chose them to help with the peace talks." Princess Lyrale laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. "Humans, these barely evolved primates, look at it. It has no light in its skin, no grace in its movements. It is nothing but a monkey that learned to wear clothes." Marcus felt his team tense behind him. He knew they wanted to defend him, but he raised his hand slightly to stop them. His face remained calm. "This creature dares to sit in the same room as divine royalty," the princess continued. "Guards, make it kneel before the eternal throne. Show this animal how to behave in the presence of gods." The ethereal guards moved forward, their weapons glowing with energy. But Marcus stood up slowly, his movements calm and steady. The guard stopped, confused by his lack of fear. "You will kneel, primitive," Princess Lyrale shouted. "You will bow before your betters. You will beg for forgiveness for daring to breathe." The same air as the chosen of the seven sons, the entire hall watched in complete silence. This was the moment everyone expected Marcus to do something. Most species would either attack in anger or fall to their knees in fear. The Void Collective. Warriors gripped their weapons, ready for a fight. The other diplomats prepared for chaos. Marcus looked at the princess for a long moment. His dark eyes were steady and calm. Then he did something that nobody expected. He smiled. It was not a mean smile or a sad smile. It was the kind of smile a teacher might give to a student who had just said something foolish, gentle, understanding, and a little bit tired. "Princess," he said quietly, his voice carrying clearly through the silent hall. "I hope you find what you are looking for." Then he turned around and walked away. Not quickly, like he was running from a fight. Not slowly, like he was making a point. He just walked at a normal pace, like he was going home after a long day at work. The princess stood frozen on her platform. Her mouth was open, but no words came out. She had spent her whole life having people either fight her or fall before her. Nobody had ever just left. "Wait," she called out, but Marcus did not stop. "I command you to stop. You cannot ignore me. I am a princess." Marcus reached the door of the great hall. He paused for just a moment and looked back. The princess was still standing there, looking lost and confused. The other aliens were staring at him with expressions he could not read. "Good luck with the peace talks," Marcus said simply. Then he walked through the door and was gone. The great hall remained silent for a full minute. Princess Lyrale stood on her platform, still pointing at the empty doorway. She had never been ignored before. In her entire life, every word she spoke had been treated like a gift from the gods. "What just happened?" she whispered. Nobody had an answer. The next morning, Princess Lyrale sat in her private chamber, staring at the wall. She had not slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the human walking away from her. The image made her feel strange inside, like something was crawling under her skin. "Your Highness," her advisor, Lord Valeth, entered the room. His silver robes rustled as he bowed. "The morning reports from the peace talks." "What reports?" Lyrale asked without looking at him. The human left. "There can be no talks without the mediator." "That is the strange thing," Princess Valeth said carefully. "The human did not leave the planet. He is still working." Lyrale turned around quickly. "What do you mean, still working?" "He went to the lower levels of the city. He is meeting with clerks, engineers, and common workers from both sides. He is not using the official meeting rooms. He is in cafeterias, repair shops, and medical centers." The princess stood up, her robes shimmering with angry light. "How dare he? He cannot ignore royal protocol. He must go through proper channels." "Yes, Your Highness," Valeth agreed. "But the strange thing is, it seems to be working." Down in the engineering section of the space station, Marcus sat at a simple metal table with 6 aliens. 3 were from the Ethereal Dominion, 3 from the Void Collective. They were all mechanics who kept the station running. "The main problem," said Orcs, a Void Collective engineer with dark blue skin, "is the power distribution. Our ships use different energy types. We cannot dock at the same stations. That causes delays in shipping," added Melody, an ethereal technician whose hands glowed softly. "Both sides lose money. People get angry." Marcus nodded. "Show me the technical specifications." For the next hour, they worked through the problem. Marcus asked simple questions and listened carefully to the answers. He did not make grand speeches or talk about politics. He just focused on the practical issues. "What if we built universal adapters?" he suggested. "Something that could handle both energy types." The aliens looked at each other. "That might work," Torx said slowly. "But it would be expensive." "How expensive compared to losing ships to pirate attacks because they cannot dock safely?" Marcus asked. The room fell quiet as the engineers thought about this. Finally, Melody spoke up. "Much cheaper than losing ships." "Then let us make a plan," Marcus said. Meanwhile, in the royal chambers, Princess Lyrale was getting more frustrated by the hour. Every report she received told her the same thing. The human was making progress without her. He met with refugee camp leaders this morning, Lord Valeth reported. He helped them design better water filters. Now families from both sides are working together to build them. He cannot do that. Lyrale said. Peace talks must go through official channels. There are rules, yes, Your Highness. But the refugees do not care about rules. They care about clean water. What about the military commanders? Surely they will not ignore proper authority. Valeth looked uncomfortable. The human met with mid-level officers from both fleets. He helped them work out a communication system. To avoid accidents in space, they seemed impressed. Lyrale threw her breakfast across the room. The crystal bowl shattered against the wall. This is impossible. He is just one primitive creature. How can he accomplish anything without royal approval? Perhaps, Valeth said very carefully. That is why he is accomplishing things. The princess stared at him. What do you mean? Well, Your Highness, when people see royal authority, they become nervous. They say what they think you want to hear. But the human, he has no authority over them. So they tell him the truth. In the station's medical center, Marcus was talking with Dr. Kess, a void collective physician, and healer Liren from the ethereal dominion. They were discussing the wounded from recent battles. The real tragedy, Dr. Kess said, is that we have different medical knowledge. I have seen ethereal soldiers die from wounds I could easily treat, but our medicine does not work on their biology. And I have watched void collective warriors suffer from diseases our healing light could cure in minutes, healer Liren added. Sadly, but we are not allowed to treat enemy soldiers. Marcus looked at both of them. What if you shared your knowledge, trained each other? That would be. Dr. Kess started to say impossible, then stopped. That would save lives, many lives, healer Liren agreed. But it would require permission from high command. What if it did not require permission? Marcus asked, what if you just did it? The two medical professionals looked at each other. They had never considered this possibility. You mean, just help people? Dr. Kess asked. Just help people, Marcus confirmed. Princess Lyrale paced back and forth in her chamber. 3 days had passed since the human walked away from her. 3 days of reports about his activities. 3 days of watching him accomplish more without her than anyone had accomplished with her. The agricultural specialists from both sides are working together now, Valeth reported. They are sharing crop rotation techniques. Food production is up 20% in the refugee camps. The shipping guilds have agreed to joint patrols against pirates, he continued. They are using the humans' communication protocols. And the medical exchange program has saved 43 lives in the past 2 days. Stop. Lyrale said quietly, Your Highness, stop giving me reports. I do not want to hear any more. Valeth bowed and turned to leave. Wait, the princess called. Tell me something. Why does no one ask for my approval anymore? Why do they listen to him instead of me? Valeth was quiet for a long moment. Your Highness, may I speak freely? Yes, when you speak, people hear. Commands, when the human speaks, people hear questions. Commands make people afraid. Questions make people think. But I am royalty. I was born to lead. Yes, Your Highness. But the human, he was born to serve. There's a difference. That evening, Marcus sat in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars. Ambassador Kellax found him there. Commander Chen, Kellax said, I must ask, are you not angry about what happened in the ceremony? Marcus smiled. Why would I be angry? The princess insulted you. She called you primitive. She tried to humiliate you in front of the entire galaxy. She did, Marcus agreed. But she was wrong. And being wrong is not a crime. It is just sad. You feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for anyone who has to tear others down to feel important, Marcus said. It must be a very lonely way to live. Kellax was quiet for a moment. You know, Commander. In all my years of diplomacy, I have never seen anything like what you are doing. You are creating peace from the bottom up instead of the top down. Peace is not something you impose on people, Marcus said. It is something you build with them. The princess is asking about you, Kellax said. Marcus looked at him. What kind of questions? She wants to know why you walked away, why you did not fight back, why you are helping people who serve under someone who insulted you. Marcus stood up. Maybe someday she will ask me directly, and if she does, then I will answer her questions. Far above them, in her crystal tower, Princess Lyrali stood at her window, looking down at the levels where Marcus worked. For the first time in her life, she was beginning to understand that being royal did not make her important. Making a difference made her important, and she was not making any difference at all. 1 week had passed since the ceremony. Marcus stood in the refugee camp on the lower level of the station, watching children from both warring races play together. A young ethereal girl with glowing skin was teaching a Void Collective boy how to make light patterns with her hands. The boy was showing her how to fold paper into small animals. Commander Chen called Dr. Kess, walking over with a smile. The water filters are working perfectly. No one has gotten sick from bad water in 3 days. That is good news, Marcus said. But I think the real success is over there. He pointed to where parents from both sides were working together to build more filters. Dr. Kess nodded. Yesterday, a Void Collective mother helped deliver an ethereal baby. The healing light from the mother made the birth easier. The Void Collective woman learned a new medical technique. People help people. Marcus said simply, it is what we do. Not everyone, Dr. Kess replied. Some people only help themselves. High above them, Princess Lyrali watched through a viewing screen. She had been watching Marcus for days now, trying to understand what made him different. Every time she thought she had figured it out, he did something that surprised her. Your Highness, Lord Valeth entered her chambers. The daily reports. I did not want to hear them, Lyrali said, not turning away from the screen. Your Highness, there has been a development. The human has been invited to address the Galactic Council about his methods. Now Lyrali turned around. What methods? They are calling it grassroots diplomacy, instead of working with leaders. He works with common people. Instead of making treaties, he solves problems. It is unprecedented. Unprecedented, Lyrali repeated. Everything about him is unprecedented. On the screen, they watched Marcus sitting with a group of engineers. He was not giving orders or making speeches. He was asking questions and listening to answers. Why does he do that? Lyrali asked. Do what? Your Highness, listen. Really, listen. When people talk to me, I already know what they are going to say. But he acts like every person has something important to tell him. Perhaps. Valeth said carefully, they do. That afternoon, Marcus was in the station's agricultural section, working with farmers from both sides. They were developing new techniques that combined ethereal light growing with Void Collective. Soil treatment, the problem with our old methods, said Farmer Grix, a Void Collective worker, is that they only work on our home worlds. Here in neutral space, nothing grows properly. But if we use ethereal light to boost growth, added Farmer Yala, whose skin glowed softly, and Void Collective. Soil enhancement to strengthen roots, the plants grow anywhere. Marcus nodded, and families can eat better food. Much better, Grix agreed. My children have never eaten vegetables this healthy. Mine too, Yala said. They used to fight over food. Now they fight over who gets to help in the gardens. Marcus smiled. That is a better kind of fighting. Unknown to them, Princess Lyrali had left her chambers. She was walking through the station, something she had never done before. Her guards followed nervously as she made her way to the lower levels. The first thing she noticed was the smell. Not bad smells, but different ones. Cooking food, machine oil, growing plants. Her royal chambers smelled like flowers and crystal. Down here, it smelled like life. She saw a group of young people from both races working together to repair a broken water pipe. They were laughing and joking as they worked. One of them, a young Void Collective woman, noticed her first. Your Highness, the woman said, bowing quickly. The others stopped working and bowed too. Please, Lyrali said, feeling awkward. Continue. Your work. I'm just looking. The young people exchanged glances. They had never seen royalty act uncertain before. "What are you repairing?" Lyrale asked. "Water pipe, Your Highness," the Void Collective woman answered. "It supplies the children's play area. The human showed us how to make it work better." "The human taught you?" "Yes, Your Highness. He said everyone should know how to fix basic things. That way, when something breaks, people do not have to wait for help." Lyrale looked at the pipe, then at the young people. May I watch?" They looked surprised but nodded. For the next hour, Princess Lyrale watched common people solve problems. She saw how they shared tools, helped each other, and celebrated small victories together. "It is finished, Your Highness," the young woman said. "Would you like to test it?" Lyrale pressed the activation button. Clean water flowed out smoothly. The group cheered softly. "Thank you," Lyrale said, and meant it. Later that day, she found Marcus in the medical center. He was helping Dr. Kess organize supplies while Healer Liren taught a group of nurses new techniques. "Human," she said, then stopped. "Commander Chen." Marcus looked up from his work. "Princess, how can I help you?" "I want to understand something. Why do you do this work? You could be meeting with important leaders, making grand treaties. Instead, you fix pipes and organize medical supplies." Marcus continued organizing supplies as he talked. "Tell me, Princess, when you were a child, what made you happy?" The question surprised her. I do not understand. Simple things. Playing with friends. Learning something new. Helping someone. What made you smile?" Lyrale thought for a moment. "I used to sneak out of my lessons to watch the palace gardeners. They would let me help plant flowers. I loved seeing them grow. And when the flowers bloomed, did it matter that you were a princess?" "No," she said quietly. "The flowers did not care about my title. They just grew because I took care of them." Marcus smiled. "That is why I do this work. Treaties and meetings are like royal titles. They are important to some people, but they do not make flowers grow. Only care and work make flowers grow. But you walked away from me." Lyrale said, "You ignored me completely." "I did not ignore you, Princess. I heard every word you said. But words that hurt people are like poison in the soil. Nothing good can grow from them." Lyrale felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to realize it was shame. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "You were young." Marcus replied, "Youth can be fixed with time and wisdom. Cruelty is harder to fix." "How do you know I'm not cruel?" Marcus looked at her directly. "Because you are here. Cruel people do not come to understand their mistakes. They just make more mistakes." That evening, Princess Lyrale sat in her chambers. But she was not alone. For the first time in her life, she had invited common people to dine with her. Farmers, engineers, doctors, and teachers filled her royal dining room. "The human is teaching us that rank does not matter," said Farmer Grix. "Skill matters, kindness matters, hard work matters. He says that every person has something valuable to contribute," added Dr. Kess. "Even children have good ideas sometimes. But what about order?" Lyrale asked. "What about leadership? Society needs structure." "Yes," agreed Healer Liren. "But the human shows us that the best leaders serve their people, not the other way around." As the evening continued, Lyrale listened to stories of cooperation, problem-solving, and hope. She heard about families who now had enough food, workers who had learned new skills, and children who played together instead of learning to hate each other. "He is changing everything," she said finally. "No, Your Highness," Farmer Yala said. Gently, "he is showing us that we can change everything. There's a difference." That night, Princess Lyrale stood at her window, looking down at the levels where Marcus worked. Tomorrow, she decided, she would not just watch. Tomorrow, she would help. The next morning, Princess Lyrale did something she had never done before. She put on simple clothes instead of her royal robes and walked to the engineering section. Without her guards, the workers looked shocked when they saw her. "Your Highness," stammered Engineer Torx, nearly dropping his tools. "We did not expect. What can we do for you?" "I want to help," Lyrale said. "Commander Chen says everyone has something valuable to contribute." I want to find out what I can contribute. The engineers looked at each other nervously. They had never worked with royalty before. Well, said Melody carefully, we are installing the new universal power adapters today. But it is dirty work, Your Highness. You might get your clothes messy. Then I will get messy. Lyrale said simply. For the next 3 hours, Princess Lyrale learned what real work felt like. She carried tools, held pieces in place while others welded, and got oil on her hands. It was harder than she expected, but also more satisfying. You are doing well, Your Highness. Torx said as they finished the first adapter. Your hands are steady. Thank you, Lyrale said, wiping sweat from her forehead. I never knew installation. Work was so precise. Most people think we just put pieces together, Melody explained. But every connection must be perfect, or ships could lose power in space. People could die. Lyrale realized, yes, that is why we take pride in our work. Every connection we make might save someone's life. Lyrale looked at the adapter they had installed. It was not beautiful like the art in her palace, but it was important. More important than most beautiful things. Meanwhile, Marcus was in the medical center when alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed, and a voice announced, emergency in Section 7. All medical personnel report immediately. Marcus ran with Dr. Kess and Healer Liren towards Section 7. When they arrived, they found chaos a construction accident had caused. Part of the ceiling to collapse. Workers from both races were trapped under heavy debris. We need cutting tools, Dr. Kess shouted over the noise, and lifting equipment, added Healer Liren. Marcus was already moving. Get the medical supplies. Ready? I will get the tools. He ran toward the engineering section, but the path was blocked by fallen debris. Marcus had to climb through narrow spaces and crawl under twisted metal. His uniform tore, and his hands got cut, but he kept going. When he reached the engineering section, he found Princess Lyrale still working with the installation team, Commander Chen. She called out, "What is happening?" "Accident in Section 7, Marcus said quickly. "People are trapped. We need cutting tools and lifting equipment. Take everything you need." Torx said immediately. "I will help carry," Lyrale said, grabbing a heavy tool case. "Your Highness, it is dangerous," Melody warned. "People are hurt," Lyrale replied. "That is more important than my safety." They raced back to Section 7 together. Marcus led the way, showing them the safest path through the debris. When they arrived, they found the situation had gotten worse. More ceiling had collapsed, and the trapped workers were running out of air. "We have to work fast," Marcus said, taking charge. Torx, use the cutting tools on the metal beams. Melody, help Dr. Kess set up the medical station. Princess, help me with the lifting equipment. "What can I do?" Lyrale asked. "See that control panel? When I tell you, activate the lifting beam. But be ready to stop immediately if I say so." "I understand." They worked together in the dangerous space. Marcus crawled under the debris to attach lifting cables to the heaviest pieces. Each time he went under, Lyrale watched the control panel with complete focus, ready to act instantly. Now, Marcus called out. Lyrale activated the beam. A massive piece of ceiling rose slowly, revealing to trapped workers underneath. "Stop," Marcus shouted. Lyrale stopped the beam immediately. The workers were free, but badly injured. Again, Marcus called, moving to the next section. They repeated this process 6 times. Each time, Lyrale had to make split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life and death. Her hands never shook. Her focus never wavered. Finally, they reached the last group of trapped workers. But as Marcus attached the cables, another piece of ceiling cracked above them. "It's going to fall," someone screamed. Marcus looked up and saw the massive piece of concrete breaking free. It was falling directly toward where he was working. He could escape, but if he did, the trapped workers would die without thinking. Marcus threw himself over the injured workers, using his body to shield them from the falling debris. "Marcus!" Lyrale screamed. The concrete crashed down, but it did not reach the workers. Marcus had activated an emergency energy shield with his last movement, but the effort had knocked him unconscious. He was bleeding from several cuts, and his arm was bent at a wrong angle. "Get him out of there," Dr. Kess shouted. Lyrale did not hesitate. She crawled into the dangerous space where Marcus lay unconscious. Debris was still falling around them, but she did not care. She grabbed Marcus under his shoulders and pulled him towards safety. "Princess, it is too dangerous," Healer Liren called. "He saved them," Lyrale said, struggling to drag Marcus's unconscious form. "He saved them all." More debris fell, and a piece struck Lyrale's shoulder. She cried out in pain but did not let go of Marcus. Step by step, she pulled him to safety. When they finally reached the medical station, Lyrale collapsed from exhaustion and pain. Dr. Kess and Healer Liren worked frantically to treat both Marcus and the princess. "Why did you do that?" Dr. Kess asked as he bandaged Lyrale's wounds. "You could have been killed. He risked his life for people who were not even his own species," Lyrale said, watching as they treated Marcus. "He did not think about his own safety. He just helped. That is what humans do," Healer Liren said softly. "They help people, not just humans," Lyrale said quietly. "That is what good people do." Marcus woke up 3 hours later in the medical center. His arm was in a cast, and his head was bandaged. The first thing he saw was Princess Lyrale sitting in a chair beside his bed. She was also bandaged, and her simple clothes were torn and dirty. "Princess," he said weakly. "Are you hurt?" "I am fine," she said. "How do you feel?" "I have been better," Marcus smiled. "The trapped workers, all alive, all safe. Because of you." Marcus tried to sit up, but Lyrale gently pushed him back down. "Rest," she said. "You lost a lot of blood. You saved my life," Marcus said, looking at her injuries. "You put yourself in danger for me. You put yourself in danger for strangers," Lyrale replied. "I learned that from you. I was just doing what needed to be done." "No," Lyrale said firmly. "You were doing what was right. There is a difference." They sat in comfortable silence. For a moment, finally, Lyrale spoke again. "I owe you an apology." "You do not owe me anything," Marcus said. "Yes, I do. When we first met, I called you primitive. I said you were barely evolved. I was wrong. You were young," Marcus replied gently. "No," Lyrale said. "I was cruel and ignorant. You are not primitive, Commander Chen. You are what we should all aspire to be." "What is that? Human," she said simply. "You are human in the best possible way." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. "Thank you, Princess. That means a lot. My name is Lyrale," she said. "And I hope you will teach me to be more like you." "I think," Marcus said with a smile. "You are already learning." 2 weeks after the accident, Marcus was finally able to walk without help. His arm was still in a cast, but his spirits were high. The peace talks had resumed, but they were very different from the original ceremony. Instead of the Grand Crystal Hall, the meetings were held in the common areas where people actually lived and worked. Representatives from both sides sat at simple tables, eating meals prepared by families from the refugee camps. The shipping routes are secure, reported Captain Vex of the Void Collective Fleet. Joint patrols have reduced pirate attacks by 80%. Medical exchanges have saved over 200 lives, added Dr. Kess. Both sides are learning from each other. Marcus listened from his seat at the back of the room. He was no longer the official mediator. That role had been taken over by Princess Lyrale, who had asked the Galactic Council to appoint her as the new peace coordinator. The agricultural program is exceeding all expectations. Lyrale reported to the assembled delegates. Food production is up 40%, and malnutrition in the refugee camps has been eliminated. Ambassador Kellax leaned over to Marcus. "She has changed completely. A month ago, she would not have known what malnutrition was. She always had the capacity for greatness." Marcus replied quietly. "She just needed to find it." The engineering cooperation has been our greatest success, Lyrale continued. The Universal Adapter Project has created jobs for thousands of workers from both sides. More importantly, it has shown that our peoples can build something together instead of destroying each other. A young ethereal delegate raised her hand. Princess, what about the territorial disputes? Our leaders still argue about who controls which star systems. Lyrale smiled. Last week, I would have said that territory was the most important thing. But I have learned something from a very wise human. Territory is just empty space. What matters is what you build in that space. She gestured to the room around them. This station was built by people from dozens of different worlds. No one argues about who owns it because everyone contributes to it. Everyone benefits from it. Are you suggesting we abandon our claims to sovereign territory? Asked a Void Collective military officer. I am suggesting we think about territory differently. Lyrale replied, instead of fighting over who controls star systems, why not work together to make those systems better? Instead of building walls between our peoples, why not build bridges? The room fell silent as the delegates considered this radical idea. Finally, an elderly ethereal noble spoke up. Princess, your ideas are interesting, but what about tradition? What about the way things have always been done? Lyrale looked at Marcus, who gave her an encouraging nod. Lord Zirian, she said gently, tradition is important, but some traditions help us grow, and some traditions hold us back. We must be wise enough to know the difference. And how do we know the difference? Lord Zirian asked. We ask ourselves, does this tradition make life better for our people? Does it help us solve problems and build a better future? If the answer is yes, we keep it. If the answer is no, we change it. The negotiations continued for hours. Marcus watched as Lyrale skillfully guided the discussion, always bringing it back to practical solutions. She had learned to ask the right questions, to listen carefully to answers, and to find common ground between opposing viewpoints. When the formal sessions ended, Marcus found himself alone with Lyrale in the observation deck. You did well today, he said. I had a good teacher, she replied, but I am still learning. There is so much I do not know about leadership. The fact that you know you have more to learn makes you a good leader, Marcus said. Bad leaders think they already know everything. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars through the transparent wall. Ships from both fleets moved peacefully through space, their crews working together on joint missions. Marcus, Lyrale said finally, I need to ask you something. When I insulted you in the ceremony, why did you not fight back? Why did you just walk away? Marcus thought for a moment, because fighting would not have solved anything. It would have just made the situation worse. But you were angry. I could see it in your eyes. Yes, I was angry. But being angry and acting on anger are different things. Anger can tell you when something is wrong, but it cannot tell you how to fix it. How did you learn to control your anger? Practice. Marcus said simply, and remembering that my goal was not to win an argument. My goal was to help people. Sometimes, helping people means accepting insults without responding. Lyrale nodded slowly. I understand now. You were not weak when you walked away. You were strong. It takes more strength to walk away from a fight than to start one, Marcus agreed. I have been thinking about what you said about flowers, Lyrale said. About how they do not care about titles, they just grow when you take care of them. What about it? I think people are like flowers too. They do not care about royal blood or divine birthright. They just want to be treated with kindness and respect. Marcus smiled. That is a very wise observation. I want to make changes in my home world, Lyrale said. I want to create schools where children from all social classes can learn together. I want to build hospitals where anyone can receive treatment, regardless of their family name. I want to establish programs where nobles work alongside common people to solve problems. That will not be easy, Marcus warned. Many people will resist those changes, I know. But I have learned something important from you. Change does not come from the top down. It comes from the bottom up. I will start small, with individual people and communities, just like you did here. The next day, the final peace agreement was signed, but more importantly, a new model of cooperation was established. The Ethereal Dominion and the Void Collective agreed to joint development projects, shared research programs, and cultural exchanges. Princess Lyrale stood before the assembled delegates to make the closing speech 3 weeks ago. I stood in this same place and showed you the worst of who I could be, she said. I was arrogant, cruel, and ignorant. I believed that my royal blood made me superior to others. She paused and looked directly at Marcus. I was wrong. A wise human taught me that true nobility comes not from birth, but from service. Not from commanding others, but from helping them. Not from being above people, but from standing beside them. She turned back to the audience. Today, we signed not just a peace treaty, but a promise to build a better future together. A promise to solve problems through cooperation instead of conflict. A promise to treat every person with dignity and respect, regardless of their species, their social class, or their home world. The delegates stood and applauded. Marcus noticed that many of them were crying. When the ceremony ended, Lyrale approached Marcus. I have something for you, she said, holding out a small crystal flower. I grew it myself in the palace gardens. It is not much, but it is something I created with my own hands. Marcus accepted the flower carefully. Thank you, princess. It is beautiful. My name is Lyrale, she said, and you are my friend. Marcus smiled. It is an honor to be your friend, Lyrale. As they shook hands, Marcus knew that something important had changed in the galaxy. Not just the end of a war, but the beginning of a new way of thinking about leadership, cooperation, and human dignity. The young princess who had once called him primitive had become one of the most progressive leaders in the galaxy. And she had done it not by abandoning her royal heritage, but by learning what it truly meant to serve her people. The seeds of change had been planted, and like all good seeds, they would grow into something beautiful.